Good day, everyone. We are now on our next topic, which is the Middle Eastern dance comes to America. Here we go. Solomon Bloom. Solomon Bloom is the son of Polish immigrants. We could say that he came from a decent living, but he could only attend school one day because his mother cannot afford his to buy his book. And though he was subsequently educated at home by his mother in San Francisco, so that also he would begin to working in the brush factory at the age of 7. So by the age of 16, he had established a business of his own and was already wealthy. And he was a regular visitor to Woodward's Gardens, San Francisco's first museum. And he also produced a play and built his own theater by the time he was 17 years old. So at a young age, he was able to play and build his own theater na. And then he decided to tour the world at age of 19 to further his education, and his first stop was the 1889 Paris Exposition Universelle. So on the exposition grounds, he saw incredible exhibits from all over the world that showcase the wonders of science, art, history, anthropology, and culture. So, the one exhibit that really captured his imagination was that of an Allegorian village. So, although he was intrigued by all that he saw, it was the woman's traditional dancing that fascinated him the most. So, he was not quite sure for how he would showcase the dance troupe, but he felt certain that he could bring them or even the entire exhibit to the United States. So, shortly, when Bloom returned to America, he learned to plans for the World's Columbian Exposition, the World's Fair, which would commemorate the 400th anniversary of Columbus' arrival in the New World. The chief contender of the large international fair was the city of the Chicago. So it was awarded the international exhibition rights in 1890 when President Benjamin Harrison signed the exposition bill into law. So uh, early in their planning, the commissions offered the ambitious 21-year-old the position of manager of the Midway Plaisance. In just a few months earlier, his greatest ambition had been contrast to spot on the Midway. So now he should be managing it, and his salary that is equal to the President of the United States, all of the tender age of 21. Solomon Bloom is an he is an artist rendering of the Midway Plaisance at the uh, 1893 World's Columbian Exposition held in Chicago, Illinois. So this is where enterprising businessman who introduced the world of Middle Eastern culture, albeit altered from maximum marketability to American audience. So next, in the Midway Plaisance. In the days before television, events like this international exposition brought millions of people together in an important new way of sharing and exchanging ideas and experience. So before pa ang television, this event, which is the Midway Plaisance, ang dito na sila ga-share sa ilahang mga ideas and experiences, like they are doing their mga skills like dance, like sayaw ano siya. Historians agree that the Chicago Fair changed the world in many ways. The architecture of the Columbian Exposition was spectacular, and the white was shared exteriors of all the buildings caused some to name them the White City. So the White City is literally become a beacon at night, where the whole court of the honor would light up with millions of bulbs powered by the Westinghouse. So that is the White City. And then Japan's pavilions introduced its traditional style of architecture to the Midwest, which later influenced the great American architect Frank Lloyd Wright. So Milton H. Hershey's purchased an entire chocolate making assembly line he saw displayed there, enabled him to mass produce the first affordable chocolate bars. So musicians from the South introduced the world to the catchy new rhythms that would eventually become known as ragtime. So it was also there uh, that Shock America first encountered what would become known as the Hoochie Coochie dance. So the Hoochie Coochie dance is that uh, belly dancing, where exotic or erotic form of dancing popularized at the Chicago World's Fair of 1893 would only later become known as that Hoochie Coochie dance. So I will show you an example of this dance. So in Midway Plaisance also, about 200 separate buildings were constructed for the fair, with exhibitions for agriculture, electricity, fisheries, forestry, machinery, manufacturing, liberal arts, mines, stocks, and also the women. The Union of 19 foreign countries constructed buildings of their own, and also formal discussions of medicine, education, finance, religion, evolution, and art are also there. So, the Midway Plaisance was built on a strip of land 600 feet wide and almost a mile long kadako under the direction of Harvard professor F.W. Putman and the Exposition Department of Ethnology. The exhibit in the area were supposed to be collected from regions all over the world and to show the progress and development of human civilizations. So we are now on the next slide, which is the Cairo Street. So, attracting more than 2 million visitors in 6 months' time, Cairo Street was a model of how the people of Cairo lived, transacted business, and amused themselves. In addition to a replica of the Luxor Temple and the mosque, there were more than 60 shops in the Cairo Street Theater. Performers, usually called dancing girls, had their performance labeled by number of names, most notably Danse du Ventre, the French for dance of the stomach. So the Danse du Ventre is just like a belly dancing. It is because dance of the stomach. And including that, there were at least 12 female dancers who accompanied themselves with tiny cymbals attached to their fingers. So, kanang 12 ka female dancers ang kanang gasayaw ani. And then, and mostly gasayaw sa katong da Dance do ventre. And then, he accompanied with themselves with the kanang symbols attached with their fingers. And they were joined by the male musicians on traditional instruments, including reed flutes, oud, which is the original lute, and a variety of percussion instruments. So, together with the male musicians on traditional instrument, female dancers also dance with this. So, the Algerian, Tunisian, and Turkish villages also gave performances that were intended to be authentic portrayals of music and dance born their respective countries. Even though they were performed on Western stages, um, sadly, this was not the case everywhere on the Midway, and this performance contrasted sharply with those on the Persian palace. So the oud, which is the original lute that is used by the male musicians in traditional instruments, Cairo Street. So the original lute and one of the most popular instrument used in Middle Eastern music. So this was one of the traditional instruments played by the musicians, accompanying the female dancers in the Middle Eastern villages at the World's Columbian Exposition. As you can see, that is an example of an oud, an original lute. So next is the Persian palace. So impressive structure with towering minarets and domes. The Persian palace. So the Persian palace of Eros originally included in company of Persian men who displayed athletic skills, gem cutting, carpet weaving, and other traditions in the country. So the Persian palace is that and having an impressive structure with towering minarets, which is tall, slender tower, and also domes. So some of the male athletes with huge club performed demonstrations to the music of the flute and drum, but this entertainment failed to excite fairgoer. So the management decided to change the program. Since they failed, they hired a troupe of people, female dancers from Paris to perform Fox Oriental dance. So the Fox Orient the Fox Oriental dance is a skimpy costumes for male audiences. Not surprisingly, the French dancers attracted huge crowds and grossly distorted picture of Persian dance was presented on the masses. So kining ang Fox Oriental dance is an skimpy costumes or kanang revealing siya nga costume. Since mura siya og kanang belly dancing. Also, in Persian Palace, non-white Americans were not included in planning their fair, though one day was observed of people of color. Native Americans were portrayed as savages, and the few people who tried to object were ignored. So, in Persian Palace, is the white Americans are not included in their planning sa fair. So, the one who object will be ignored. So, since the French dancers in fantasy costumes had been so successful during the fair at the Persian Palace, which is ang katong Fox Oriental dance is successful siya during the fair of the Persian Palace. It was not surprising that other non-Middle Eastern women were brought to be perform the dance du ventre, which was now nearly always referred to as the Hoochie Coochie. Oriental sideshows were also featured in the later international expositions in San Francisco, Atlanta, Nashville, Buffalo, and St. Louis. So the Oriental sideshows also gina-featured or ginasayaw gihapon nila in the later international expositions. So here, Madame Ruth was featured in the 1894 Kinetograph Dance du Ventre, which is the dance du ventre is the term belly dancing. It is often created to Solomon Bloom, the fair's entertainment director, but he referred to the dance as this Dance du Ventour, the name used by the French in Algeria. So, a surviving film of a truly authentic looking performance from around 1897 at Coney Island is entitled Fatima's Dance. So, one of the more interesting places claiming to have employed the talents to Little Egypt is a popular tourist site called the Birdcage Theater. So, um, one of the interesting place nga gina showcase nila, or dito sila ga showcase sa ilang talent, is which the Little Egypt is popular tourist called the Birdcage Theater. So, Fatima may well have been the first belly dancer to perform in America. But when the incident happened, that they really brought the Little Egypt persona to the attention of the public, was a scandal that was come to the known of the awful CD dinner. So it has been a scandal ang Little Egypt. So next is si Farida Mazar. She probably did dance at the fair. So it has believed that she was Syrian and that she had learned to dance in Cairo, Egypt. So, but but eventually he married a Greek restaurateur and become a devoted wife. So, Farida continued performing occasionally, but in conservative manner, rather unlike that of her many imitations. So, shortly before her death, she sued to makes she used to make of the 1936 motion picture The Great Ziegfeld, because they presented the Little Egypt. So Solblom added further intrigue to the legend of the Little Egypt by denying her existence at the Midway Plaza. So at the Chicago World's Columbian Exposition, when Solblom went to become a member of the Congress, so padulong na siya member sa Congress. So she Farida Mazar died at a heart attack, since na heart attack siya. And then si Mark Twain suffered a coronary upon seeing her dance. So, and Thomas Edison film of her performance caused the picture camera to become instant his success. So in 1948, Solblom became a member of Congress, na jud siya, and chairman of the House Committee of Foreign Affairs. And Congressman Bloom was considered an authority on amusements at the fair, yet he denied that there was ever a dance called Little Egypt in the Midway. So gideny niya. And then we are now on the real Middle East. So despite of denial or the lack of historical evidences, many still stubbornly cling to the belief that the Little Egypt of Columbian World Exposition forms views that America's first notable belly dancer is that the Little Egypt. So we are now on the real Middle East. So the Middle East has often been called the cradle of civilization, the birthplace of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. It is an area whose influence has also deeply impacted the disciplines of science, medicines, architecture, and certainly music and the dance. Though there were a few bold travelers to the region as early as the Middle Ages, and later occupations by colonial armies, it was not until the 19th century and the Middle East, so often called the Orient, to become a fashionable destination for wealthy travelers. Among the curiosity-seeking Europeans, word quickly spread that the dancers were one of the region's most interesting attractions. So, writers and painters flocked to the Middle East and North Africa. There, inspiration. So, but sadly, many customs and traditions of the vast and diversified part of the world are viewed and judged with as little understanding and appreciation so of their ancient roots today as they were in the past. So in recent years, as political tensions and turmoil have increased, the culture of the East and West have collided in new ways due to part in the West dependence on the oil supplies of the East. So though it still receives mixed reviews despite all the ads, Middle Eastern dance has survived for thousands of years. So, ang Middle Eastern dance is nag-survive gihapon siya in thousands of years. Then, the mysterious art, with its many and varied forms, has crossed the seas and found acceptance and appreciation in many countries around the world. So, it is a creative and unifying force among people, whatever it is practiced. So, thank you for listening. That would be all.